said you'd come. Now let's hope you're not too late.
We know each other. He's a friend from work.
Long talks. Long talks.
Talk just a little bit, just for the sake of it. Say what you think of it.
Long talks. Long talks.
Talk just a little bit, just for the sake of it. Say what you think of it.
Long talks. Long talks.
Talk just a little bit, just for the sake of it. Say what you think of it.
Welcome to Jumanji.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to episode number 60 of the Wulong Talks podcast. Hi, I'm Jason. I'm the host of the show, as you know. And as always, I'm joined by the Rustin Kid, aka Rich Kid. Rich Kid, say what's up.
What's up? What's up?
Cool, man. And yeah, we're back. And it's a brand new year. Last time you heard from us, we were having our Christmas special episode, and we're kind of talking about our Christmas and the kind of things we were hoping to do over the Christmas break. And we hope you all had a really enjoyable Christmas break, and you got all the gifts you wanted and got to see all the people that you love in your life. Rich, how was your Christmas, man? Did you get up to anything cool?
It was cool, man. I mean, to be fair, I just chilled, really. Just chilled the family and just took it easy. Yeah, and then that was it. Can't complain, man. I mean, like I think I said it during the on the Christmas special. I'm kind of old for Christmas, so as long as I get my presents, then I'm happy. So, yeah, I'm a simple man like that.
Yeah, for me it was sleep. As long as I get my sleep, I'm all right. So it was sleep, a bit of food, and I did get to play Yakuza 6 as well, Song of Life. I'm finding it a bit slow going at the moment. I'm only on about chapter 4, I think, or something like that. And there's 10 chapters in the game. And yeah, this one's a bit slow going. There's a lot of bloody dialogue and exposition in this one. And I was trying to remember whether Yakuza 5 was like this as well, and I can't remember. But yeah, this one, there's a hell of a lot of talking in this one, and I find myself getting a bit frustrated with it. Like there's too much talking, and there's too much breaks in the gameplay for, you know, side stories and this and that and the other. But as I said, I'm only like 4 chapters in, so I need to get kind of deeper into the game before I make any real progress and start busting some heads. But how about you, man? You still bagging out the Destiny?
Listen, Destiny. I told you, Destiny's got me. Destiny's got me. And it's weird because, I mean, I occasionally go into these forums and, you know, just social media, and you've got this large amount of people that are just bashing Destiny because of the amount of content you have to pay for and XYZ. And I mean, I pretty much got all my Destiny stuff for free when they gave the game away for free. And then the DLC content was just sold for like £20.
Yeah.
So like I'm thinking I'm getting my money's worth, definitely. This is, you know, like those McDonald's adverts where they're trying to get every single penny out. Yeah, I'm getting that out of Destiny 2.
Yeah.
So much so that I mean, you guys know that me and Jason, we collect comic books, graphic novels, statues and stuff. I've started to collect like art books and art concept books. And one of the books that I did get was the Destiny Grimoire book, which is kind of like the backstory and history of Destiny. So I'm proper engrossed, man. Like I feel like those kids that I see playing Dungeons and Dragons, where they walk around holding books and they sit down and they're like, oh my god, in 1438, like this dragon ate this person. Like I feel like that, but it makes me so happy. So yeah. But so in order to answer your question, I'm still banging out Destiny. So yeah.
Well, I was going to say Destiny is it's an EA game, isn't it? EA Sports produced it. What EA Sports? That's the sports side, but it's EA who produced that game. So
no, it's Bungie, and
is it Bungie? Oh, I thought
yeah.
it was EA who were doing Destiny.
No. So it's Bungie, and is it the funny thing is that basically they've actually just split up. They literally just split up last week, and it's kind of like let me Google it. Bungie, I think it might be Bungie and Activision. Give me 2 seconds. But while I'm looking for that,
Yeah, but no, I was just going to say, I mean, that's you know, you were saying about people's complaints about DLC and things like that, and that's a common complaint in the gaming world at the moment, that, you know, people, and I suppose I can understand it, because I mean, in your case it was different because you were prepared to wait for the game. I mean, Destiny at this point is, you know, a 2-year-old game, so you were prepared to wait for it and get it at a cheaper rate where you could get everything at once for one price. Whereas I suppose if you're buying that on day one, on launch day, you know, the problem is with a lot of these modern AAA titles is you're getting, you know, 40% of a game, and then a week later they're telling you, oh, you need to buy this extra map pack if you want to do this, and then you've got to buy this if you want to do that. And it, you know, that's where people's kind of frustration comes from, I suppose. But yeah, 20 quid, I mean, you got a good deal there, so yeah,
well,
can't complain, really.
£22 it was.
Ah, right, fair enough.
So nearly.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's good, man. That's good. What we're going to do here, listeners, is we're going to kind of recap some of the things that we enjoyed doing over the past year. I mean, you've heard some of our previous episodes before, so you'll know that we always like to do a recap at the end of an old year and the beginning of a new one. So we'll take you back through some of the highlights of the year for us. That includes not just movies and TV shows and games, but actual, you know, cultural events and things like that we were able to do over the year. And we've also got a few new features that we want to talk to you about. Plus, we're going to have one of those new features launching at the end of this episode as well. But we'll tell you more about that a little bit later on. But first of all, I mean, 2018 for us has been a phenomenal year. You know, we've had the opportunity to experience so much and to do so much with the podcast this year. And, you know, the first thing I want to do really is to thank all of you who are listening to this. You know, you've helped to make this year, wow, just such an amazing year for us, as said. I mean, you know, we had 5,000 plays this year of the podcast, and you know, that's not a necessarily earth-shattering number in comparison to some other podcasters, but for us that's just mind-blowing. You know, to have that many plays on our little old podcast in the last 12 months is crazy. I mean, we basically doubled our overall play numbers within a year. Which, yeah, said just kind of blows my mind that so many people have listened to this. And what I've enjoyed as well is seeing how many people around the world have really kind of engaged with us and you know, have got involved in the question of the week, or, you know, said have listened to episodes or have got in touch with us. And, you know, it's been crazy. It shows you how much this culture, you know, popular culture can cross barriers and boundaries, and how it can build bridges between people. And, you know, that's part of the reason why me and Richard love doing this, is because we love having the opportunity to hear from other people from all over the world and meet other people and make new friends and new connections. And, you know, that's definitely the kind of energy we want to keep going in 2019. So thank you to all of you who've listened with us and who fucked with us over the last year, man. We appreciate you. We really, really do. But yeah, said this year has been a phenomenal one for us in terms of experiences and things like that as well. I was trying to remember, Richard, if we did anything in January, but I don't think there was anything that we specifically did in January, was there?
What, January, as in what, this month now, or January last year?
No, last year, dude. Not this month. The month ain't over yet.
Listen, let me say something. It's beginning of the year. Everything confusing. People at work are still putting 2018. Yeah. So we need to be specific.
Listen, I did that in my day job the other day, mate. I put 2018 on an important form down, and I was like, oh shit, like it's not 2018. What are you doing? Like, yeah, this year kind of creeped up on me. But yeah,
did we do anything last year? I don't.
Not in January, did we?
No, I don't think so. No.
Okay, well, we'll skip January then. But I mean, certainly February we had a massive kind of cultural moment for us. February last year saw the release of Marvel Studios' movie Black Panther. It's fair to say that movie has become a cultural phenomenon around the world. And Richard and I were very, very fortunate to get the opportunity to go to the European premiere of the movie in London. it was just a crazy occasion because, you know, the amount of people that you saw in the queue when we were queuing up, and people that we bumped into at the tube station on the way there, who were just kind of like so excited to see this movie with, you know, with African Americans and with Black people and people from the diaspora as the leads in a big budget movie like this is something that we rarely see, you know, in cinema. And there was just such an excitement, as said, around everybody who was attending. And yeah, man, it was just something that I don't think I'll ever forget, that experience. Like, you know, as much as we have like some gripes about the setup and the way that they did certain things for the premiere itself, you know, the emotion, we definitely got swept up in the emotion of the experience, no doubt.
Yeah.
Rich, I mean, how about you? I mean, what was kind of like the highs of that whole experience?
I mean, like you said, it was just that feeling of just seeing people like us, and I don't know, we're not, like I said, when we started this channel, it wasn't a thing to try and alienate anybody or to just cater to a particular market. Our channel is basically open for anybody and everybody. We have no qualms unless your name's R. Kelly, right?
Yeah.
But it was just the most, if it's such a word, it was the most fantastical thing, going to a place like you said, but seeing other people like us. And it's weird because I remember seeing a skit done by Richard Pryor, and he does this whole skit about how all Black people should go to Africa. And he goes like, just go there. Like it's just a bit of an eye opener. You don't have to go and live there. You can do whatever, but you should just go to a place where there's other people like you, and it would just open your eyes a little bit. And he said that basically he's walking down the street and he's going, "Oh, hey, that looks like my friend Jim Brown, or that guy. Hold on, where's everyone else? Like everybody just looks like me." And it said it shouldn't be a thing where it should feel different. It should feel natural. But seeing Black Panther and then seeing the amount of people rolling out for this premiere, it really hammered it home about how much representation is needed in, you know, in loads of things. But obviously right now we're just talking about cinema. And so it was just a beautiful thing. Like I said, just seeing people just go in there and everyone was just there for the same thing. And it wasn't necessarily just seeing just only Black people there as well. I mean, we ended up bumping into Professor Green out there and seeing a couple of people from like radio and things like that, and from television. But some of them might not have even been fans of the film. But like you said, it was just this event that just brought this large amount of people together. And everybody was just so, we ended up making friends watching the film with two ladies who I actually can't remember their names, but ended up being really, really nice. And they actually ended up following us on Woolons, which is very bad because they follow us, so we should know their names. But it was just that thing. It was just like a night. It was like a networking night without it being networking, and everybody was just in the same vibe. Like you said, the setup of it and everything was neither here nor there. But the vibe was just amazing, and that's the one thing I just remember for it. And I remember turning around to you, Jay. I think we just looked at each other and just went, "This is just fucking amazing." Like, look at this! Like this is just beautiful. So yeah, it was that's my memory of that night.
Yeah, man, I distinctly remember us. I think we said this is beautiful. I think we both kind of turned to each other and was just like, yeah, man. Yeah, this is beautiful. And as you said, it was just like it you know, as significant as it was for us on you know that level of having that representation on the big screen in a big budget Marvel movie. It kind of went beyond that, and it became, like I said, a pop culture phenomenon that you know, that appealed to Marvel movie fans. It appealed to regular movie fans. It appealed to you know, people who just wanted to see a movie with people of color up on the screen. You know, to people who were just action movie fans. It kind of crossed all of these borders and boundaries and became such a huge hit that it ended up making $1 billion at the box office, which nobody saw coming. I think even, I mean, Kevin Feige himself said, even in our wildest dreams, we were confident the film would do well, but in our wildest dreams, we didn't think it was going to do that well. We didn't think it was going to go that far. So, yeah, that was truly a highlight of 2018, man, for sure. That was just an amazing experience, and I said that's one I think I'll never forget. So, yeah, man, that's definitely one to remember. Well, also this year, as I said at the top of the show, aside from sort of watching movies and TV shows, me and Rich were able to do a bit of traveling this year, and us being the people that we are, traveling usually means we're going to end up doing some geeky stuff, namely, going to cons and going to conventions and exhibitions and things like that. So we were able to attend MCM Comic Con at the beginning of the year. Well, not so much the beginning of the year. It was more like sort of May, wasn't it? For MCM? Yeah. And that was really cool. I mean, if you've been listening to the show a while, me and Rich go to MCM Comic Con pretty much every year. Some cases twice a year. And we enjoy the convention experience, and we enjoy going there. A lot of our friends and people from our social circle go there as well. But also it's just a great opportunity to meet, other people, and to meet, in particular, to meet the creators of, the stuff that we enjoy. So be that comic book writers, TV stars, actors, and things like that. And MCM this year, I think, was no exception. I mean, it was the first year that MCM in London was being managed by an American company called Repop, who you would know for New York Comic Con, US listeners. So if you know New York Comic Con, Repop is the same company that manages that. They've now taken over management of MCM in London, and it did. I don't know about you, Rich, but it felt like quite different this year. It did feel a bit more organized, and a bit more kind of
felt bigger.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it felt a lot bigger. I mean, do you think these are kind of changes that have been made for the better in terms of the way that it's laid out and everything now?
Yeah, well, I mean, we were talking about how, like I said, I mean, number one, it felt more organized. It felt bigger. The timings, the times. Yeah, so the times were extended as well, weren't they?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so that it opened up earlier and it closed later. Yeah. Yeah, it just felt, for the first time ever, it felt like we weren't rushed, or pressed for time for anything, and it allowed us to enjoy it that little bit more. And then on top of that, the way how everything was like organized, I just felt like I enjoyed myself more without having to force myself to, if you get my meaning.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes that we would get there on a Saturday and then we look at the time and it's just like, what? It felt like 5 minutes, but like now it's like 4 o'clock. And then, but I say it got to a point where we had enough time that we'd actually looked everywhere and we were able to be like, okay, well, listen, we've done our rounds. Let's maybe just go back here in case something else catches our eye, just in case we missed it. And there was just that nice easiness that came with it this year with the new owners, or the new organizers, or whatever you want to call them. But either way, they've done a good job. So yeah, no, it was nice. I like it. I'm looking forward to see what it's going to be like this year as well.
Yeah, definitely. I think it'll be interesting to see kind of how they build on the things that happen. I mean, there was a lot more high profile guests this summer, it felt like, in comparison to, kind of what was being offered in the past. Because we actually had members of the Black Panther cast, I think. Letitia Wright, yeah, that's right. Letitia Wright, who plays Shuri, was here this year. So she was doing meet and greets, and I think she had like an on-stage interview and things like that as well, which was really cool. And we also, got like more comic book artists and writers this year, it felt like, as well. Both kind of big names and people who were independents or people who were starting out. And one of the the things that me and Rich enjoy is kind of getting to meet some of the people who make the things that we love. And I think for you, Rich, surely one of the highlights has got to be meeting Jeff Darrow.
Yeah.
and getting a picture taken with him, because that was pretty damn cool considering how big a guy he is. But yeah, man. I mean, Jeff Darrow was he was so cool as well. He was really just your typical kind of whatever you'd imagine a comic book writer / artist to be. That's kind of what he was. He was just very laid back, very open, really kind of cool. I mean, you didn't get to chat to him that long, did you? I can't remember, to be honest.
Well, I mean, no, I think we did have like a little bit of like a. Is the saying tete-a-tete?
Yeah.
Yeah, a little
Yeah, no, it is,
yeah.
yeah.
I read people. I read. Yeah.
Every now and again he does. Yeah.
No, it was nice because it was weird because I remember I spoke to him and took pictures with him on the Sunday, and I remember passing him on the Saturday and not noticing, but going like, "Oh, Jeff Darrow," but then like, but I get super excited at Comic-Con people, so I'm all over the place. I'm like a 5-year-old on sherbet, so yeah. And then obviously then seeing him on the Sunday and then going up to talk to him, and then realizing how big he is. Like he's just a big guy, like a bear. And I think I remember he stood up, and I have this thing. Listen, listeners out there, I'm 5'7", so like there's some people that may be short to some people, but they still might be technically bigger and taller to me. And he stood up, and I went, "Shit, you're big." I went, "Yeah, I'm a big guy." And I was like, "Okay." But it was just really, really nice. Just having a quick little chat to him. I said how much I enjoyed his work and everything like that. And he was really, really grateful. And I don't think a lot of people out there really knew who he was, because we passed him quite a few times on the Saturday and the Sunday.
Yeah.
And he was never really busy. So I mean, just a brief little history breakdown of who Jeff Darrow is. He's just an amazing artist, done a lot of work for Image. One of them being, is it Cowboy Samurai?
It's Shaolin. No, it's Shaolin Cowboy. Yeah.
Yeah, Shaolin Cowboy, and he was also the concept artist for the Matrix films. So so all of the designs, let's say for the squids, which are like the mechanical robots, and just the machine world, he basically designed all of that stuff. If you get a chance, any of you guys out there listening, just Google Jeff Darrow Matrix artwork, and you see how much of an amazing artist he is. And he's someone that I really think that's overlooked. But he was definitely a highlight of someone that meeting at the Comic-Con. So that was cool.
Yeah, no doubt, man. He was. And as said, these kind of things are always good to get to meet, people who are just starting out. So meeting independents and people, who are chasing their dream and developing their passion and developing that dream project that they've always wanted to do. And, you get to meet those people face to face at conventions, which is great. So we always highly recommend that if you are a fan of pop culture, and if you've got a favorite TV show or a favorite comic or a favorite book or a favorite game or whatever it is, try to get to one of these conventions, because even if you can't meet the creators behind what you love, you'll at least meet like-minded people who like what you like, and that's how friendships are born, and and good things happen, and good energy gets put out into the world. So definitely make sure you make some time to do that. So yeah, we had MCM this year, which we enjoyed. We also had the opportunity this year to go to Paris, to Paris Comic-Con for I believe it was the first Paris Comic-Con by this specific company. And I think, I didn't look it up, but I think they're related to the same people who do MCM in London.
They were,
yeah, they are, aren't they?
Yeah.
So Richard and I, and a friend of ours, Jared, got to go over to Paris for the weekend and check out the Paris Comic-Con. And I gotta say, man, it was probably my favorite con experience of the year. I really, really, really loved it. I really did. The convention's not quite as physically big as say London MCM is. In fact, it's a lot smaller than that, but what it lacks in the size, it more than makes up for in terms of the quality of the content that you get there, in a sense that you get so much access to artists and writers and authors, and the sellers are not retailers who are selling the same thing every 2 and 3 stores down. Everybody has something different to kind of offer, and it's a lot easier to kind of meet the artists that you want to meet, and the writers that you want to meet as well. But yeah, Rich, I mean, what were some of the highlights for you from Paris Comic Con?
Paris Comic Con. You know what my highlight was, and I'm sure, like, if I say it, you'd be like, yeah, damn straight it was. It was just taking pictures of the cosplayers. They were going in. They did. Yeah, like, I mean, I think they may have actually topped like UK MCM. Yeah, like I saw some wicked costumes, and like I was seeing people in cosplays, and they were giving out business cards and shit. Like, don't get me wrong, I don't speak French, but I know business cards when I say a business card. And and they just really went in, and there was quite a few characters, obscure characters that I saw people dressed up as, and I was like, okay, like you wouldn't normally see that, but then it just kind of hammers it home, because like there's quite, I mean, Paris has, Paris, France has quite a large anime community, and they've had anime there a lot longer than we have in the UK. So I mean, for example, I mean, they've got characters like Arsène Lupin, which is basically, if you think about it, it's a French-born character, and then Japan basically made their own version of it and then sold it back to, back to France. You've got Nicky Larson, which is the French version of City Hunter, which is also known as Ryu Saber in Japan. So it was nice seeing characters that I know, but I don't normally see elsewhere. So I mean, that was one of the things that I really enjoyed. That, like, the cosplayers just really killed it, and just being able to be like, hey, I know that guy. Well, I know that guy. That was nice. That was nice.
Yeah,
and then meeting a couple of the sellers out there as well. And we made, I think, a couple of friends. So it was good. It was nice.
Yeah, it was, man. It was. For me, probably the highlight, even though it was only brief, the highlight for me was probably getting to meet Brian Stelfreeze. Because, like, for those of you that don't know, listeners, Brian Stelfreeze is a legend in comic book circles. He's been one of the premier sort of comic book artists out there for many years. And in particular, I mean, his work got a lot of attention with the most recent Black Panther comic book run that came out, that was written by Ta-Nehisi Coates. Brian Stelfreeze was actually doing like a lot of the artwork in the early issues, particularly the covers and things like that. And as I always say to people, if you like the nanotechnology from the Black Panther movie, you can thank Brian Stelfreeze for that, because he was the one who came up with that idea. Or he certainly visualized that idea. I mean, it was him and Ta-Nehisi Coates who came up with it together, really. But he certainly brought it to life in the way that it was in the movie. And that was just like amazing for me. I mean, like I said, we only got to meet him briefly, listeners. So it was, it wasn't really an opportunity for us to kind of sit down and pick his brain as much as we would have liked. But yeah, man, that was incredible. But as Richard said, the cosplaying was epic, absolutely epic. I mean, like, I remember there was one picture I took of a lady who dressed as Maleficent, and and she was just like, I was like, wow, like, this is a fucking amazing. Like, the amount of detail and effort and time you can see that people put into their cosplays, it was just like, it was insane. There was, what was the other one that I was thinking of? There was the other lady who'd cosplayed as Ghost from Ant-Man and the Wasp. That one was like just amazing as well. Just like so detailed. Again, like, people have, you can clearly see that people have put like a huge amount of time and effort into what they've done. By the way, listeners, I mean, if you want to see some of the pictures from our trip to Paris last year, you can find them all on our Instagram page. You just need to go to the Instagram app and search for Wulong Talks on Instagram. Will pop up, and then you can check out all of the cosplay pictures there. I mean, all the best of cosplay pictures that we took from Paris, and there was quite a few are all up on the page, so you can check those out and have a look. And they said, yeah, don't just take our word for it, like go and see it, man, because some of those cosplays were phenomenal. But yeah, I mean, Paris was an amazing experience. With Richard and I, when we started doing this podcast, one of the things we kind of said we want to do, and one of the podcast kind of bucket lists is to get to go to conventions, not just in the UK but outside of the UK. Eventually we want to get to San Diego Comic-Con, and one day we will do it. I don't know when, but eventually we will get there. But we wanted to go abroad and to kind of try and meet different people and make connections abroad, and maybe try and attract some people to listen to us and to follow what we're doing. And it was very productive on that level. But also, as I said, it was just really enjoyable because the French really, really, really appreciate art, which probably goes without saying because of the history of that nation. But they really do cherish art in France. And you get the feeling in France as well that they take pop culture a little bit more seriously than they do over here. Pop culture is not just it's not just a thing to entertain you for a little while. It's a thing that you study and you examine and you discuss with your friends, and it's all kind of wrapped up in I guess the French psyche and the way in which they like to kind of interact with the world around them. So being around that for a weekend was cool. Very, very cool. Was there anything else you fancied from that weekend that you wanted to chat about?
Well, I mean, the other thing was that we got to hang out with a friend of ours that we haven't really hung out with before. So in the pictures, listeners, if you go to our site or go to the Instagram page, like you'll see there'll be a couple of pictures of the guy that came with me and Jason, and his name is Jared. And it was just cool just hanging out with another person who's like into the same shit that we are. And yeah, and it was just cool just hanging out with him, really. Like I said, all these type of things, it's all these things that we like to follow or are interested in. It brings people together. And one of the things that I remember saying to Jay is that because Jared's a guy that we work with, and I remember saying to Jason and Jared, like, if I 5 years ago, if I'd said that you guys would have been in Paris together, just you two, not work related, what would you have said? You would have been like, fuck no. But then like you start talking to someone and you realize you've got something in common, and you're just like, hey, let's not just go to a Comic-Con. Let's go to a Comic-Con that's not in London. That means we're traveling to like another place where they don't even speak our language. Yeah, cool. We're interested in the same thing. Let's do it. So I found that really interesting. And it was just a weekend of just seeing amazing places, meeting different people. We ended up meeting people on a train on the way back. It was just nice. Yeah, the whole weekend was just one big highlight for me, man.
Well, listeners, you'll definitely get to know Jared a little bit better in the coming weeks and months. So we'll save the introductions until he's actually around. But yeah, as Richard said, he's a cool guy, and I think you guys are going to like him as well. But yeah, we'll say no more of that for the time being, and we'll move on. Because we also got to travel to Edinburgh this year as well in Scotland for another convention, which was I Love the 80s, which was basically, well, as the name says, it does what it says on the tin. It was a convention that was based around sort of classic TV shows from the 1980s that had a little smattering of kind of comic book stuff as well, but the focus primarily was on things like Battlestar Galactica and A-Team,
Buck
and
Rogers.
Buck Rogers, yep, Buck
Yeah.
Rogers as
Flash
well.
Gordon.
Flash Gordon, yeah, all the kind of stuff from the 80s that you probably know and love if you're listening to this show. But yeah, I mean, that was pretty cool as well. Again, it was a lot smaller than I kind of thought it was going to be. I mean, I don't know if you agree with that, but
Yeah, no, yeah, to be fair, it was tiny.
Hmm.
And the other thing is that, you know, when we knew where we were going to, I think, you know what it is? I think we've been spoilt for Comic Cons.
yeah, that's true. Actually,
Yeah, so we just think that all Comic Cons are the same.
Yeah.
So I mean, yes, so going to the one in Edinburgh, we knew it was going to be about the 80s, but at the same time, we did think it was going to be a lot more focused on, well, not a lot more focused, but a lot more, let's say, like comic book collections and things like that, and back issues and things that we could buy. So once again, it was something that we are aware of, and we have been to before in larger Comic Cons, but it was definitely a lot more specialized in that one thing. So we were thrown off when we first got there, weren't we?
Mm.
Yeah. So I mean, like, so it was decent. It was enjoyable, should I say?
Mm.
I don't know, it sounds like I'm trying to be nice. It was a nice weekend. It was a nice weekend.
Yeah, I thought so. It was kind of fun. It was kind of fun actually. And you know, one of the things I did enjoy doing up in Edinburgh was discovering that little comic book shop, Deadhead Comics.
Oh yeah.
You know, which was really cool. I mean, if you're ever going up by Edinburgh Way, listeners, Deadhead Comics is a really cool place. It's a very, very small comic book store. It's kind of hidden off the back streets, and it's kind of about 10 minutes walk away from Edinburgh Castle. And it's really, really cool, especially if you're after like kind of more independent stuff and niche stuff. They actually had like a display with comics by local artists and writers, so people actually from Edinburgh, which I thought was really cool as well, because that's something that you don't see at a lot of comic book stores in this country. So you know, that was very cool that they were trying to push the local talent as much as you know, the obvious names that you would expect to see. So yeah, you know, that was pretty cool.
In fact, that Deadhead's comic store, I think it was the only, or one of the only, independent comic book stores in Edinburgh as well, from what she said.
Yes, that's right. Yeah, that's right. So you know, that was interesting. That was really, really interesting. So yeah, if you're passing through Edinburgh, make sure you go and check out Deadhead Comics, man. That's a good look. Definitely a good look. Right. Those are kind of like the cultural highlights, I think, unless I've missed anything. Rich, have we not talked about something?
I'm sure if we have it, will pop up.
Okay, well, let's move on. Apart from obviously the cultural stuff, we had a year where we had a few. Oh, actually, yeah, let's do some obituaries as well, because we had a few quite significant people pass away this year. I mean, first and foremost is the obvious one, Stan Lee. You know, we did an episode this year about Stan and what his work meant to us, and you know, what we think the legacy of his work will be. And you know, so I won't go over too much old ground with all of that, really, but you know, suffice to say that if you are interested in hearing our thoughts on that, make sure you go and check out our episode. It's called Thank You, Stan, and it's available on our podcast channel. So yeah, wherever you're listening to this podcast, just search for that episode and you'll find it. Rich, did you want to add any thoughts on Stan Lee's passing?
Yeah, I think, like, number one, you just kind of recapped it, and that episode was just pretty emotional anyway. And I wrote a little piece about him as well. So I don't think there's really anything else to add. We're just treading over old ground. You're just going to open up old wounds again.
Everything's going to start to hurt again, yeah? Yeah. All right, cool. Well, I mean, aside from losing Stan Lee, we also saw the passing of Raymond Chow. For those of you that don't know, you know, Raymond Chow is partly responsible for well, pretty much the way kind of modern martial arts cinema is today, really. You know, he was one of the co-founders of Golden Harvest. He was part of the Shaw Brothers, you know, studio that produced so many classic kung fu movies from, you know, the 60s onwards, that Shaw Brothers did. You know, they were partly responsible for breaking Bruce Lee as a movie star.
Yeah.
You know, for Jackie Chan, for, you know, pretty much any of the big names now in kung fu cinema from Hong Kong. You know, Raymond Chow had his hand in it and played his part in that. So his legacy is humongous in terms of what's out there. So yeah, you know, that's definitely somebody we pay a salute to up here in Wulong Talks, man. And the other person who died, he passed away quite recently, funny enough, just before, I think, the end of the year, and that's Ringo Lam.
Oh yeah, shit.
Yeah.
I only remember this the other day.
Mm-hmm.
But and then
Yeah.
I was like, did I forget this? And then I actually went to myself, shit, I'm getting old.
Yeah, age will do that to you, man. But yeah, Ringo Lam passed away, which is a name that, I mean, if you were somebody who enjoyed the kind of heroic bloodshed movies of the late 80s and early 90s, then Ringo Lam is a name you would know. He basically was, you know, along with John Woo, kind of and I guess Stanley Tong and Choi Hark as well. They were kind of the vanguard of that kind of heroic bloodshed movement. Heroic bloodshed, by the way, is just a term used to describe some of the action movies that came out of Hong Kong in the 80s and 90s. But Ringo Lam was the director of and the writer behind one film called City on Fire, which is pretty, I mean, basically, if this film didn't exist, Reservoir Dogs wouldn't exist, because Reservoir Dogs at times is a shot-for-shot remake of City on Fire. And Tarantino has pretty much said that himself. So yeah, if you like Reservoir Dogs, you can thank Ringo Lam for being the inspiration behind that. But he did many more movies beside that. I mean, he recently just finished up a movie with Daniel Wu. I think Daniel Wu was saying he just finished filming a movie with him in, I think it was like sort of mid-December or something like that. They just wrapped filming in Hong Kong. And then literally, I think like 2 weeks after the movie wrapped, he passed away. So
what did he pass of? How did he pass?
I don't know. You know, I don't actually know. I'm assuming that it's cancer. I'll look it up. Hold on 1 second.
Yeah.
Sorry, listeners, for the dead air here. I probably should look at this to see
no
what,
dead.
what it is.
They're good. They know what they listen. This is episode 60. They know how we roll. Ringo Lam, cause of death. Holy smoke! He was in a fire.
Oh, he was caught in a fire. Okay.
What kind of nonsense is this?
Yeah, that's a bit mad, isn't it?
He was caught in a fire. Listen, no comment. What type of irony is this? That we just bring up the film A City on Fire. In a fire. I'm not even cracking jokes, man. Like, but damn.
And yeah, you know, that's another piece of my childhood gone, man. Like, so yeah, it's been a rough one. It's been a rough one. But enough of that. Let's stop doing all the negative stuff. Let's start talking about the juicy things, the things that people have come here to listen to. And that is our take on some of the things that we enjoyed from movie, TVs, and maybe a little bit of comics from Rich Kid as well, from 2018. Now there's a lot. When I was looking back at it, I realized there's a hell of a lot of things that I've absorbed this year in 2018. So for me, I'm going to try and keep these lists very short, listeners. I'm not going to go into too much detail because some of this stuff I've already done reviews for on the podcast and things like that. So there's no need for me to really kind of go into too much detail. So I'll just kind of summarize and give you some lists of things that I like, and then I'll pick out a few movies and TV shows that really kind of interested me over the last 12 months that I think you guys should check out as well. But yeah, Richie, I mean, you can start if you like, and just give us a quick rundown of the things that you've enjoyed in 2018. Start with movies, I guess.
So throw me under the bus, will you? Okay.
Jesus, you're obsessed with being thrown under the bus.
Yeah, because you keep on throwing me under the bus. This is like Stockholm syndrome. So basically, what did I enjoy in 2018? Like we said at the beginning of the show, 2018 was, I mean, because we've said this before, me and you, and we've said it with a couple of our other, if you want to call them geeks, like geek friends, but we were just blessed and spoiled. 2018 was a funny year because it was like, I would, if I'm going to say something and you can tell me if you agree, Jay, but we've been geeks since like day one, but then I don't think geekdom didn't really start truly, I would say, until Iron Man 1 came out, right? That's when it got like the modern geek age. So you've got like in comic books, you've got like the golden age, the silver age, and you've got the modern age. I would say right now we're like in our modern age. So we've had like the 60s of like Batman, so 40s into the 60s, Superman, Batman, Green Hornet, all of those camp stuff. And then you got like the 80s into the 90s, which you generally could consider like the silver age of those type of things. And now we're now into like the modern age with like the MCU and every other movie production house, whatever, trying to create their own universe. But we were just spoiled on so many things, and it felt weird because for the first time ever, it generally felt like whatever come out in the cinema, geek-wise, was fully ingrained in pop culture. So highlights for me last year, obviously, we had Black Panther, we had Infinity War. The end of the year, we had Into the Spider-Verse. During the year, we just had like relaunches of comics, which I was just like, wow, where did this come from, and how did it happen, and why did it happen? Not to say that I'm generally upset, but yeah, it was just a weird one, and cinema was just really, really good as well. Hey, I'm proud of. What was the question again?
Yeah, I noticed you were just rambling away there. Like
emotions are better of me.
No, it was just yeah. So your highlights basically TV. Well, no, we could start with movies, but yeah, just the things that you enjoyed the most. I said you don't have to go into detail and stuff. Just the things that really stood out for you this year.
Okay, let's start with movies. Come on, Jay, you know me. My mind's all over the place. You need to give me structure. All right, so one of the films that really stood out to me last year, and it's a bit of a cop-out because it was actually released in the UK in 2017, but it didn't really pick up any form of Oscar buzz until the beginning of 2018. And it's a coming-of-age movie called Call Me By Your Name. And it's set in the 80s, and it's about a kid named Elio, who basically ends up falling in love with an intern who comes to work for his father during the summer. And it's one of those things. I remember, because you haven't seen it yet, Jay, have you?
No, I haven't yet. No.
Yeah, and I don't know if I told you. I remember telling you, saying like it's one of those films where, unfortunately, there are some people out there who still believe that certain types of preference of how you love people is a thing. That doesn't bother me. I know it doesn't bother you, and I know it doesn't bother a lot of our listeners. But this, I mean, basically, the relationship between these two characters is that one is, the older one is kind of pretending to be gay, maybe bisexual, but it's a period when you're not really allowed to talk about things like that. But everybody's like, is still hip and cool. And you've got Elio, who's basically a teenager who's just discovering himself. And to me, it wasn't so much so that it was about two men having a gay relationship. It was just about falling in love. It was like Jenna is just such a beautiful film. It's just about two people falling in love and knowing that they can't be together for quite a few reasons, but just having those brief moments in time and just enjoying it while it lasts. And to be fair, it just reminded me of just being a kid and like having the first crush and things like that. And I really recommend that if none of you guys have seen this film, go and see it. There was a bit of controversy in regards to like a, you know, we're all adults here, in regards to like a masturbation scene with like a peach. But I'm telling you now, like it's done in like the nicest possible way. And to be fair, I'm sure if you really wanted to find much weirder things to watch in regards to sex, you could just Google it and go to like a porn site. But definitely go and watch Call Me by Your Name. It's a beautiful film, and I recommend it to anyone and to everyone and anyone.
Yeah, no doubt, man. No doubt. I definitely need to catch that. I mean, I've been saying I'm gonna watch it, and I still haven't got around to watching it. So
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, for sure. I will catch up with that movie because everybody who's seen it comes out saying it's good.
Yeah.
And you know, as much as I'm not somebody who's too into kind of romantic movies, I like movies that deal with love in a real way. And
Yeah.
it sounds like this is the kind of movie that deals with love in a real way. But not only that, it's also entertaining and it's beautiful to look at, as you said. So yeah, that's definitely one that I'm gonna catch up with. So yeah, Call Me by Your Name is definitely a good one to go down on the list, man. Any others you wanted to mention?
Blade Runner 2049. So I watched,
shit, was that this year?
you know what? Once again, all this kicks in. Let's stop. I know I did watch it last year, but I'm not sure if
Okay.
it was released last year. This Blade Runner 2049.
Oh, it might have been released the year before, I think, you know. But hold on, I'll just sorry, listeners, we're checking it again.
It was 2017 it was released.
Oh, okay, right.
Yeah. And listen, I mean, listeners out there, this number one, I just looked at how long the film was, and I remember the film being long, but at no point going like, God damn, this film is long. I was just like, yeah, this film is long. I don't give two shits. I think I could watch this for the rest of my life. If anybody's wondering, the film is 4 hours and 41 minutes.
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
although I don't know if that was necessarily the cut that they released at the cinema, you know.
Oh.
I think they may have cut it down for the cinema to 3 hours, and then I think what happened was the original cut is 4 hours plus. But I think the correct me if I'm wrong on that, listeners, but I think that the cut they released in the movies wasn't actually that long. It was cut down.
What's
for
the
the
163 minutes?
164 minutes. Yeah, that's not 4 hours. That's
What's that, 3 hours?
That's about 3 hours. Yeah.
Yeah, 3 hours. Like even then, like I was like, yeah, I can just watch this film like non-stop. And the reason why this was a high, like I said, I mean, listeners, it came out 2017, but I didn't watch it until last year. So I'm bending rules as I always do in Wulongs, and I'm putting it for one of my highlights for 2018. If you don't like it, sue me. It's weird because I wouldn't say that I'm not a fan of the original Blade Runner, but the original Blade Runner has never been a film where I've gone like, oh my god, Blade Runner's on today. Like I need to go home quickly and go and watch it. Or they might release like the 7th Ridley Scott, you know, director's cut. It's never bothered me. I've always appreciated the impacts that it's had on cinema and, you know, science fiction as a genre, but it's never been one of my go-to films. Blade Runner 2049, on the other hand, Jesus, it's a beautiful film. And it just deals with, once again, it reminds me of sci-fi that I miss. So I've mentioned it before on the podcast before, where there's like your typical sci-fi that we're, you know, become accustomed to, where it's just like spaceships and laser guns and, you know, maybe special powers and things like that. And then you've got sci-fi that was written during a period where it was people that wanted to discuss things in society that they weren't really allowed to discuss because they would be seen, you know, as different, or maybe being sympathizers for, you know, maybe people that were put in particular situations. And Blade Runner 2049 just it really reminded me of just like good old sci-fi and dealing with you know, with concepts such as like what it means to be human, what it means to love or to be loved. Hey, quick question. Wait, just question to myself. Was 2018 like just a falling in love year for myself? Because I'm just picking films that people seem to be falling in love.
It seems like it.
And I'm not even noticing.
Not that I thought it was possible for you to fall in love with yourself anymore, but yeah.
Maybe. And yeah, and it was just a beautiful film. And then once again, much like Call Me by Your Name, visually it's beautiful. In fact, you know, I actually think that the cinematographer for Call Me by Your Name may have worked on Blade Runner 2049. And if it was the same person, like it wouldn't surprise me. But both films are just beautiful, like really, really beautiful. Yeah, I mean, the best thing to say is that, I mean, anybody who hasn't seen it, definitely go and peep it. I don't think it's going to be a waste of 3 hours, like some people try to say. You don't necessarily have to have seen the original Blade Runner either to enjoy this one. It would fill in some blanks, but like I said, I mean, I've seen Blade Runner a handful of times. I remember bits and pieces of it. Not my favorite movie, but this one, I actually watched it and started watching it again straight after. So I finished it, watched all the credits, went downstairs, made me like a little snack, and then came back upstairs and put it back on. Didn't finish it because I fell asleep, because like I said, the film's fucking 3 hours. But that just shows you how good the film is. So yeah. And I ended up getting the concept art book for Blade Runner 2049 through Titan Publishing. So big up to Titan Publishing for sending that through to us to review as well. But yeah, that was definitely another highlight movie for 2018 for me.
Cool, man. Well, for me, I mean, in terms of movies, I realized, as said, when I was preparing notes and stuff for this, I was like, damn, I've seen a lot of films this year, man. For me anyway, because I'm somebody who you know, I try to get to the cinema as much as I can, but I don't always have the time. So there's some things that I end up missing that other people go to see and come back and go, oh, how comes you haven't seen this yet? And so yeah, so my list is not quite as comprehensive as some other people's lists will be, but these are the things that I kind of saw in 2018 that really stood out for me. I'm not going to talk about all of these movies. Some of them I will, because they're ones that I haven't mentioned in the review podcasts that we usually do on this channel. So Searching, the movie starring John Cho, really enjoyed that movie. Really enjoyed it. I think the only thing that stopped me from making it one of the better movies I'd seen this year is that the ending is slightly a bit of a cop out, but yeah, as a whole, really good movie, really cleverly done. I mean, the fact that they were able to make it all with you know, what's that thing called, FaceTime and Skype and things like that, and they were able to make a film out of that. Like, that's nuts when you think about it. And you know, John Cho, who's the lead actor in it, is phenomenal. I've loved John Cho for years, ever since you know, I saw him in Harold and Kumar, in the first Harold and Kumar movie. You know, I think he's an amazing actor. I love his work on Star Trek, and I hope, you know, the guy really goes from strength to strength. And yeah, Searching, he is fantastic in that movie, and I really can't recommend it highly enough, especially if you're somebody who's into kind of like that kind of Hitchcockian style thriller, where it's because I feel like that kind of thriller is hit a brick wall these days. Like, you don't really get films that have those kinds of plot twists and turns and have tension like that anymore, dramatic tension anymore. I think M. Night Shyamalan's got a lot to answer for in that regard. I think he spoiled a lot of people with that. But Searching is very much in the tradition of kind of like a Hitchcock thriller. And yeah, it's really well done, so definitely worth checking out. Aside from Searching, there was Black Klansman I saw this year as well, which was a phenomenal movie. Great to see Spike Lee back to his best again, after quite a few years in the wilderness. But you know, this again is a really, really entertaining movie. John David Washington is fantastic. Laura Harrier is in it as well from Spider-Man Homecoming. She's fantastic. Adam Driver's brilliant in it. Topher Grace plays fucking David Duke, the head of the Ku Klux Klan. It's like, how weird is that? Like, Topher Grace from that 70s show is the head of the Ku Klux Klan, but he does it really well. You know, the pacing of the story is good. The plot is good. The dialogue's excellent. It's funny when it needs to be, and it's serious when it needs to be. So it you know, it was a really, really good experience. And as I said, Spike Lee it just feels like he's back now. Which is great. So I hope this is, you know, the start of him rediscovering himself again as a filmmaker, because yeah, this is a really, really top-notch movie and definitely one worth checking out when it comes out on video on demand. What else is there? There is Mary Poppins Returns, which I saw towards the end of the year. That was great. Although I will say, if you're not a fan of Disney musicals, then you're kind of wasting your time with Mary Poppins Returns, because it's a very, very, very Disney musical. But if you're into that, then you'll love Mary Poppins Returns. Emily Blunt is sensational as Mary Poppins. She really is. Like, I would never have thought I would have seen a Mary Poppins sequel without Julie Andrews, and completely forget that Julie Andrews is so synonymous with the character because the lead actress is so good. But yeah, she's just incredible in this. Her performance alone is worth the admission fee. So yeah, definitely go and check out Mary Poppins Returns. What else is there? Oh, another film with Emily Blunt that I enjoyed, A Quiet Place. I mean, that film's been talked to death, so I'm not really going to say much more or add anything because you've probably heard it all before. But A Quiet Place is definitely a movie worth checking out. There was also Creed 2, which I enjoyed immensely. It's really a movie that kind of carries on with the tradition that was laid down in the first Creed movie. And you know, when I heard Ryan Coogler had left the production and he wasn't going to be directing this one, I was a bit worried. But Stephen Capel Jr. does a brilliant job with this. So yeah, you know, there's really nothing to worry about at all. What surprised me with Creed 2 was how much the story made time for family, in a sense that, you know, the story is effectively about families and about family dynamics, and how, you know, how much of a I guess a responsibility do you have to your families, both past and present and future, and you know, what should you be doing to shape the lives of your families going forward. And it kind of juxtaposes, you know, Adonis Creed and what's going on with him and his life with the son of Ivan Drago, Victor Drago, and you know, the relationship that he has with his father and his estranged mother, and kind of how those two parallels kind of drive them towards this inevitable conflict that they're going to have. And yeah, the movie is just like really, really good, really good. I mean, loads of standout performances in that. And it's, you know, it's actually made me interested in the Creed franchise. I'm now interested in seeing a third Creed movie. So yeah, I really enjoyed that. That was a good one. What else was there? A couple of quick shout outs. Annihilation, I thought was a really interesting film. I felt it was at times I found it a little bit pretentious, but I suppose, to be fair to Annihilation, it's the kind of movie that's dealing with big ideas and big themes. And I suppose when, you know, you're being that ambitious in your storytelling, then you are going to come off a little bit pretentious at times. So I can accept that. And again, the performances were fantastic throughout Annihilation. So I enjoyed that. So I would say, yeah, it's worth checking out. As I said, the story is genuinely interesting. And Alex Garland, the guy who wrote it and directed it, usually does very interesting things with sci-fi. If you've seen Ex Machina before, then, you know, or if you've seen Sunshine, which he wrote, you know, they're all really impressive stories, and there's lots of, as I said, big ideas that he approaches with his stories. So it's worth checking out on that basis. And I think that's it. Apart from, well, no, I'll leave the last movie to you, Rich, because I think we both consider this to be our movie of the year for this year. It came out very late in the day. It definitely stole a march on everything else that came out. And I think we're both hooked. So, Rich, tell the people what our movie of the year is, man.
Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse.
Hell yeah. Wow, what a damn movie, man. Like, I think both of us have said, listeners, because the movie came out so late in the day, none of us really were expecting what we got from Into the Spider-Verse, which was just sensational. Rich, I'm gonna let you run wild on this one, man, because I can't even, like, I'm swapping places with you. I'll get too emotional, so you talk about it, like, because I think you could be a more cooler head when you talk about it. So yeah. Into the Spider-Verse.
It's funny because I remember we spoke about when the first teaser trailer was released, and I wasn't sold. I wasn't sold in the animation. I mean, everything else I was kind of sold on, and I was like, yeah, generally this thing, it can work, but we'll see when it comes out. And I'm gonna put Into the Spider-Verse with a handful of films that I can say that I've gone into the cinema thinking that this might be good, and then leaving in the cinema and going like, I didn't know it was going to be that fucking good. So I can name you films that this has happened to me before. The Incredibles, the first one, all right? Ron Burgundy, Anchorman. What's the boxing film with Clint Eastwood and the woman who won the Oscar?
Oh, $1 Million Baby.
$1 Million Baby and The Matrix. Those are 4 films off the top of my head where I knew they might be good, but I didn't know they were going to be that good. So that's 4. And this 5th one, Into the Spider-Verse, is like same thing. Like, I love seeing films like this. I love seeing films that just remind me why I love cinema so much. And this was it. I took my son to go and see it, and he's now like, he's now into Spider-Man. I'm not trying to push him into liking all of this stuff. I mean, he does know that he's got a time limit, that if he doesn't like all of this stuff, then I'm gonna, send him to an orphanage. But at the same time, everyone has a choice. Let's just say I'm not pushing him into liking it. But he loves it. I mean, he walks around just humming the Post Malone song as well and stuff like that. But I just didn't know it was gonna be that good. And everything was just perfectly done. The amount of characters that they juggled but didn't feel, I mean, there was maybe 1 or 2 that maybe felt slightly sidelined, but they still had their moments to shine. The animation was amazing. It was like watching an animated comic book, but not throwing you off. The voice acting was amazing as well. The soundtrack, oh my god, the soundtrack. We've been blessed with 2 amazing soundtracks this year. Beginning of the year with Black Panther, and then just basically Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. It just has the film and the music and everything in it just has its finger on the pulse of everything, which is just so fucking cool today. So much so that anybody can go and watch it. I don't see why anybody can't go and watch it. I think it won an award, not like literally, I think like last weque or something like that.
It did, yeah.
In regards,
it's been cleaning up. Yeah, it's been cleaning up at the awards.
Yeah, like it's. I mean, it's about, yeah. I don't see why not. It does everything so right. I mean, it doesn't even try to downplay that it's an animation, maybe just for kids. It does something that Pixar do really well. And don't be fooled by what you're seeing on the screen. There's still a story that is being told, and it doesn't matter where you're from, you're going to enjoy this story. And some parts of this story are going to hit you, and some parts of the story are going to make you feel happy. And I think that's the best way to describe it. I think the most amazing thing about Into the Spider-Verse for me was that it managed to take a Spider-Man that was kind of frowned upon by certain people and push it to the forefront. And I think anybody that watched this film and wasn't won over by basically Miles Morales, then you have no soul and he should go and jump into the same volcano that they threw that ring into at the end of the Lord of the Rings. And I think it's one of those things. It's a perfect swan song to the end of the year, in not only the story, but also it's a nice top off for the passing of Stan Lee, because it just makes references to like the reason why Marvel Comics are just so good at what they do. And literally, there were parts of the film that brought tears to my eyes, man. It was such a good film, such a good film.
That's got to be Stanley's best cameo as well.
Yeah,
man.
yeah.
Like, it's just brilliant.
Easily.
Yeah, brilliant. Well, listeners, you heard it there from Rich, man. I mean, if you haven't seen Into the Spider-Verse yet, pull your finger out and go and see it, because it's bloody amazing. It really is. Like, believe the hype on this one. It really is that good. I mean, Phil Lord and Chris Miller have done an unbelievable job, but it's not just them. It's, as Richard said, it's the animators, it's the people who worked on the soundtrack, it's the voice cast, it's the script, is everything. Like it's amazing. It's amazing. I never would have believed that, and I remember saying this to the Man Geek, I never would have believed you could have a Spider-Man movie that had so many Spider-Men and women in the story, juggle all of those characters, handle all of their backstory and all of that, and still not feel like it's been rushed or forced in any way. Like, it all made perfect sense. Like, it just, it really is brilliant, absolutely brilliant. And it can be, the key test of any of these types of movies, animated movies, for me, is if an adult can get as much out of it as a child can. And the fact that, when I went to go and see the movie, like, 60-70% of the audience was adults. There was only like a small number of kids there. And I went to a daytime showing. There really wasn't that many kids. It was mostly adults who'd gone to go and see it. The fact that you have so many adults who enjoy it tells you that, there's a lot of depth to this movie. So yeah, man, I'm happy to go with that as movie of the year. I'm down with that. Totally down with that. Yeah. So yeah, as said, listeners, make sure you go and check out Into the Spider-Verse if you haven't seen that. Now, quickly, we'll do some of our TV highlights as well. Rich, you felt I threw you under the bus last time, so I'll go first. Hold
on. Hey, it doesn't work that way. You choose yourself. You're not throwing yourself under the bus. Right?
I am. Look, I'm throwing myself under the bus.
No, I choose you to go next. That's throwing you under the bus.
Okay, well, as said, I mean, TV, there hasn't been like huge amounts of TV I've been able to watch this year, but it feels like there's been loads of stuff. I'm not going to talk too much about the Netflix Marvel stuff, because I suspect Rich might want to have his say on that, and you've heard what we had to say about a lot of that anyway on the podcast. But instead, I'm going to pick out like two shows that I think maybe people might not have seen who listen to this podcast. One of those is a show I've been talking about since I first saw it in the summer on Netflix, and that's called Ghoul. It is an Indian mini series, really, rather than a TV show, because it's only about like 4 episodes long. But it's a horror series, and it's based around sort of Indian / Islamic mythology. And it's about kind of demons and demonic possession, and it all takes place in a prison for the criminally insane. And it's just, it's really good, really good. It was way beyond what I expected it to be when I clicked play on it. Ghoul is definitely something you got to check out, man, because it's not often we get to see movies and TV shows from other parts of the world that are not, France or Germany or, somewhere in Western Europe. We don't really get to see TV shows from from the East. And it's nice to have an opportunity to see something and for it to be that enjoyable as well. So Ghoul is definitely something you need to check out. It's got a terrific lead in Radhika Apte as well, who's quite well known in Indian cinema, but probably not as well known outside of there. But she's really good as the lead actress in that. And I'm going to pick another TV show that was led by women. And that's Killing Eve from the BBC. I stumbled across this again around the summertime because my wife had started watching it, and the show just blew me away, man. I was like, again, it was completely not what I expected. It was, it was gritty, but it was really, really funny in a darkly kind of humorous way. The lead actors in it are just mind-blowingly good. I was like, holy hell, like this is so good. And then when I researched it and I realized that it was Phoebe Waller-Bridge who wrote it, who's she plays the lead actress in Fleabag. She wrote that show herself. But those of you who might know her better would know her as the robot in Solo. So in the Star Wars movie, Star Wars Story Solo, she does the voice of the robot in that. But she's the one who wrote Killing Eve as well. And it's, for those of you that don't know, because I imagine there's a lot of Americans listening who probably never heard of it. It's basically about a Russian spy assassin, I guess you would say, Rich. Like she's kind of like a spy assassin, and a top assassin, but basically not one that's sanctioned by the Russian government. It's almost like there's this outside organization outside of the Russian government who are trying to enact this plan, this kind of new world order plan, really to take control of the planet by controlling the key resources. And this assassin is someone who's kind of sent to remove high profile targets within different countries and things like that. And she kind of blends into wherever whatever environment she's in, and she starts to get hunted down by an investigator from British intelligence, and it just becomes this kind of cat and mouse between the two of them, which is just plays out in a brilliant way, man. So yeah, I mean, it's just Killing Eve, man, is great. really great. As said, it was one of the surprise packages for me this year. And Rich, I know you loved it as well, man, so you can say a piece on that as well if you want to say something.
No, you've covered it, man. Like I literally, it was just like you said, to me it was that balance of realism and dark humor, and I was just like, yeah, this is it's like, this is fucked up, but I love it. Or like, stop it, I like it. It was literally like that. Yes, such a good show, because you put me onto that show, Jay. So so thank you for that, man. I remember like, yeah, I can't wait for season 2. Simple as that.
Yeah, she was. It's amazing. So it's Jodie Comer. Sorry, I couldn't remember her name, but Jodie Comer is the person who plays the assassin Villanelle, and Sandra Oh from
Grey's Anatomy.
Yeah, Grey's Anatomy and Sideways and loads of other stuff. She's Eve in the show, and she's like really just great. And again, I mean, I know both of us are happy that she's having some success now as well, because again, she's just been so good for so long.
She's been grinding, man.
Yeah, for years. But yeah, man, like Killing Eve was a wicked show. For me, like, a lot of people in Britain were talking about The Bodyguard. I watched it, thought it was okay, and then it did something really stupid and racist at the end, and it pissed me off. So I didn't like it. I
wasn't a fan of it. I tried to watch it and I was like,
it pissed me off. I was like, why is everybody so excited about this show? It's not that fucking good. Personally, listeners, if you want our recommendation for it, forget The Bodyguard, watch Killing Eve. It's a lot more fun than The Bodyguard, and it's just better. It's better written. The dialogue's better. The characters are better. Just go and watch Killing Eve. Do yourself a favor, man. Oops, sorry, my alarm's just gone off then. But yeah, those would be my TV show recommendations, or the things that I would say you guys should go and watch. I think both of those are available on BBC America. Yeah, I think they're on BBC America for those of you in America who are listening, especially Killing Eve.
They cancel it after a while, don't they?
Yeah. The problem is Americans, the BBC likes to get rid of lots of their programs from their online streaming services because they don't pay for bandwidth. So yeah, they don't really have the capability to store a lot of programs and things like that, but you should be able to find it on BBC America, I reckon. So yeah, you can go check that out. Rich, what about your TV shows, man?
My TV shows for this year or for last year? Sorry, it is 11:15 right now. So that wasn't because I was bored. It's because I'm lying down, and I'm tired. TV shows for last year. First, Voltron. I've been talking about this show like from season 1. Voltron is easily one of the only shows that I can say season after season has never disappointed. Last season, which was the 8th season, it did feel slightly dragged out a bit, and I think that's because Netflix actually wanted to add an 8th season. It was actually meant to end on 7 seasons. So bits and pieces of it did feel a bit dragged out, but it was just an amazing show. And it's one of those things where I remember I think they announced that the 8th season was going to be the final season, and this was like season 6, and I was dreading it coming up. Then I was like, but we've got 2 seasons left, but like 2 seasons is pretty good. That's what let's say at least 18 episodes, but that means it's going to be over, and I haven't finished this season that I'm watching right now, which is being released. So technically I've got close to, like, my maths isn't good, 20 something plus episodes, nearly 30 episodes. And it was a nice swan song to a show that's been running for a good couple of years. And I think it deserves all the credit that people have been giving it. Number one, it deals with quite a few themes. I mean, it doesn't go into too much depth, but it does touch upon race ever so slightly. It does touch upon, once again, the sexual activity, or should I say, how you choose and who you choose to love doesn't really make any form of difference. But there's a reason why Netflix was putting Voltron out as one of its flagship shows. It's because everything was just perfect about it, from season 1 to this last season that just aired last year. The writing, the animation, everything was just on point. And I'm actually kind of a bit upset because I don't think there's anything out there right now that can replace a show like Voltron, in regards to, say, like, an anime like that. If anybody doesn't know what Voltron is, it's just a reboot of the famous 1980s Japanese animation, in which there's 5 guardians are given control of 5 massive, gigantic, robotic lions, which can fight evil independently, but if need be, they can form together to form basically a giant robot called Voltron. So imagine like an animated version of the Power Rangers. But I wouldn't even say better, because Power Rangers, as far as I'm concerned, is a really good show. And anybody who disagrees, holler at us, and we can have a debate about it. And by the end of it, you will be converted. But yeah, so my first show is Voltron. Second show for last year, Jay. I'm surprised you didn't pick this, but somehow I think you knew that I might pick it anyway. That's why you didn't pick it. So damn you for those mind games. It's gonna be Daredevil season 3, and once again another Netflix original, which basically was a nice swan song to an amazingly well-written show, which unfortunately only had 3 seasons due to whatever politics is happening between Marvel Studios and Netflix themselves. But once again, it was a show based around a particular genre, which throws everything on its head, but still manages to stay on the path. And I was really, really impressed with this third season of Daredevil. We finally got to see him face against somebody that put him on the back foot, and once again explored the character of Matt Murdock and the character of Daredevil, which is one of the reasons why Daredevil was such a good show in the first place, and one of the reasons why everybody and their grandmother was so surprised when the show got cancelled, when other shows from that Marvel universe on Netflix got given second chances. But let's not get into that, because I'm going to start mentioning names. I'm going to start getting pissed off. But but my other show for 2018, Daredevil, once again, perfect writing, perfect acting, perfect goddamn martial arts choreography, just some amazingness that was just put on screen. Stuff that we've seen on screen, that hasn't been bettered by films that have like massive budgets. So anybody who hasn't seen Daredevil season 3, go and watch it. Anybody that hasn't seen Daredevil or Voltron in general, go and watch the seasons, because you're now going to be privy to a whole show that has a beginning, a middle, and an end. So yeah, those are my two shows, my two standout shows for 2018.
Cool, man. Thank you for that, bro. I was giving you the baton to run with on Daredevil, but also just because I wanted to talk about like some stuff that people might not necessarily have seen. So I wanted to kind of signal boost some of the shows that I really enjoyed that perhaps might have flown a bit under the radar for some people, but no, man, I feel exactly the same way you do about Daredevil season 3. It's definitely a fitting end to that show, and we'll be sad to see it go, man, for sure. All right, did you want to mention any like comic books that you enjoyed this year?
Black Panther has had a bit of a decent run this year. It was rebooted again, with still the same writer, Tennessee Coates, which I'm a bit. It's still good, but the way how he writes is almost like I'm waiting for it to start to take a bit of a dip. But so far, it's been really good, and this first story arc is a lot stronger than the story arc that came before the reboot. They've got an amazing artist on it, Daniel Acuna.
I love Daniel Acuna.
Yeah, just
he's
beautiful art, man. Like,
yeah.
He. I mean, listeners out there, me and Jay have a list of people of artists that we want to go out and get commissions done by, and Daniel Acuna is very, very high on that list. So that's a really, really good comic book. My highlight comic book of the year for 2018, Old Man Hawkeye. So basically, Old Man Hawkeye was set in the same universe as the Old Man Logan story, which I'm actually quite surprised, because Old Man Logan did quite well, and it's kind of like the basis of what the film Logan was based on, but not a lot of people I know who read comic books have actually read Old Man Logan, and I was just like ridiculously surprised. I mean, Old Man Logan, or the Old Man Logan universe, has a lot more history behind it, especially when compared to the Logan movie. But basically, Old Man Hawkeye is basically just is about Hawkeye living in the same universe as Old Man Logan, and it takes place 5 years before the Old Man Logan story, and it's just like a lead up of how Hawkeye becomes who he is when you do meet him in the Old Man Logan story. It sounds like I'm repeating myself, and it's basically because I actually don't want to spoil anything, because it's just a really, really, really good storyline, and it takes who I consider to be a really undersold character. Hawkeye is a really, really good character, especially when he's dealt with in the right hands. And I think they should really just try and market him a lot more, because he clearly has a really, really good a really, really strong fan base. But coming off the back of Old Man Hawkeye doing so well, they're now coming out with this year with a third story arc set in Old Man Hawkeye and Old Man Logan universe, called Old Man Quill or Old Man Star-Lord. So this is now basically going to be set in the same universe, but on the space side of things with an old version of Peter Quill. So yeah, but I mean, we'll talk about that when it comes out. But for comic books, definitely go and pick up the Black Panther run because it's really, really good. Really good writing, really good art, nice take on Afrofuturism. Then go pick up Old Man Hawkeye because I mean, who doesn't like alternate universes where you can see things slightly ever so fucked up? So yeah, those are my two.
Cool. Thank you very much, bro. As always, with having positives and lots of good things to celebrate, unfortunately, there were some things that were kind of negative and yeah, we don't really like too much. But, this year I've decided that I don't really want to spend a whole heap of time trashing stuff because, first of all, I said I've talked about a lot of these things already in previous podcasts. And secondly, I just don't like the energy. So, these are some of the worst, quote unquote, worst, negative, least enjoyable things from 2018. I don't know if you've got any that you want to add, Rich, but I mean, I'm not even going to go too tough into detail. I'm just going to list them for people. So in terms of movies that I didn't like, Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom. I don't know why I spent money on Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom. I don't know why I keep spending money on Jurassic World movies. They're terrible. Ready Player One was a massive disappointment to me, especially because, I felt like people really hyped that film to the moon and back. And when I watched it, it just felt like somebody was going nostalgia, nostalgia, nostalgia and throwing it in my face constantly without actually having a story that felt original or characters that I cared about. So yeah, Ready Player One did nothing for me. The Predator, I've said enough about the Predator. I really don't want to go into the Predator again. Venom, yuck. Mile 22, which just has to be the worst action film of the year. Even worse than the Predator, simply because it creates it commits the cardinal sin of having Iko Uwais in the movie and giving him one action scene. Like, why would you do that? Like, why? Why would you do that?
Sounds like some bullshit to me.
Exactly that, mate. So yeah, those were the movies that I enjoyed the least this year. And for TV, there was really only one thing I saw on TV that really pissed me off, and that was House of Cards, the final season, because House of Cards I'd been a loyal fan of from its inception. And I was looking forward to Claire Underwood becoming president and, watching how the game kind of finally unfolds and unravels. And instead, what we got in that final season was something that just rambled and rambled and rambled. And then the plot got more and more and more ridiculous to the point where I think the final 2 episodes, I was just like, you know what? I've had enough. Just end it. Like this is actually where this story needs to end now, because it's become too ridiculous to the point where I can't buy into it anymore. It's too ridiculous now. So yeah, that was a disappointment for me because I had been looking forward to that. And yeah, I felt like it let me down, to be honest. Rich, is there anything negative you want to get off your chest before we close the book on 2018?
Ready Player One is another one that I wasn't a fan of. And to be fair, I wasn't a big fan of the book either. I think I've only met 2 people that have been fans of the book, and when we've discussed why they did enjoy the book, it's made perfect sense. But then I think that everyone else who I know who's read the book and enjoyed it, I don't think it's been like it's been like a strong enough reason. I mean, obviously that's in my opinion, where the same way they have their opinion, that's the reason why they enjoyed the book. And I felt it was the same thing for the movie, and I have to agree with you, and Jay, with you in that point, Jay, where it was just felt like nostalgia, and I was just like, yeah, you literally just wasted my. I felt like I was wasting my time, to be honest.
Mm.
Like I felt like I was wasting my time, and to be brutally truthful, I didn't finish the movie.
Mm.
I couldn't finish it. I couldn't finish the movie because the movie wasn't bringing anything new to the table for me to a book that I didn't enjoy. Now, some people may say that that means I went into the film, like just already not already with my mind made up, saying I wasn't going to enjoy it. That's nonsense. The original book version of Starship Troopers is not an enjoyable book, but the take that they do on Starship Troopers, the movie by Paul Verhoeven, is an amazing concept for the film. So there's an argument there. So it wasn't that I went into it not wanting to like it. I just felt it just didn't do anything for me. And so yes, that was a disappointment for me there. For TV show, Iron Fist season 2.
Mm.
Iron Fist season 2. I mean, the reason why it was such a disappointment is because after all of the mistakes and problems that they had on season 1, you could see that they tried to fix it, but it still wasn't enough.
Mm. Yeah.
And to me, is upsetting because it just hammered home that the mistakes they made in the first season, whoever commissioned the show or whoever was headlining the show, clearly didn't give, excuse my language, a flying fuck about the source material. And I just saw that as a big disrespect. Just for the simple fact, like me and Jay, we love our martial arts. We've got a friend who runs a martial arts podcast, Jeff, Kung Fu Driving podcast. Go check it out. He speaks to quite a lot of the people in the martial arts world, whether it be professional competitions or people who delve in stunts. And for a show that's based around a martial arts character, I think it genuinely made some people in that industry look bad. So there's that aspect of it. And then the way how the character, which has been around for X amount of years and has quite quite a strong fan base, was just wasn't really, they didn't really try to do anything with a character. In fact, everything was just one big clusterfuck. And I felt that once again I wasted 10 hours of my life watching the second season. And I'm not gonna even try and say that they didn't try to rectify any of the problems. It's just a thing of that I think it wasn't enough. And that's just really disappointing, especially when you look at some of the other shows that are included in that Marvel Netflix universe. It's pretty much simple what you need to do. Just stick to that formula. I mean, the MCU have been doing it for 10 years with like 21 films. You've only got 4 shows. Just stick to that formula and make it work. So that was a disappointment because they sold me dreams on that. For the trailers for the second season, they sold me dreams. But unfortunately, you can't have everything. You can't have everything that you want. So yeah, or everything that you wish for, should I say?
Yeah. With Iron Fist season 2, it was a case of too little, too late in the end.
Yeah.
Really. Yeah, and I think that's pretty much all we need to say on that one. Because again, as said, listeners, we've covered plenty of ground with Iron Fist on previous podcasts. So feel free to dip back into those and have a listen if you want to get more in depth.
Brain flash. Wow, I really am tired. Light bulb, the thing in my head, idea, brain fart. That's it. Okay, cool. So we didn't like Iron Fist, right? And I mean, not that we're trying to bash anybody, but we think that maybe one of the reasons being was, maybe just the main character being played by a particular person. Can you agree with me on that, Jay?
I wouldn't say they were necessarily the main problem, but
they were a problem.
But they were part of the problem. Yeah.
Okay. One of the reasons that you didn't like The Bodyguard, was it just for the problems that you said, or could it also be the main character as well? Was the main character a problem? Because I wasn't the main character in The Bodyguard.
No, I wouldn't say it was the main character. I mean, the main character played by Richard Madden, who you would know from Game of Thrones listeners. His character was killed in the Red Wedding. He's fine. I mean, he's good in terms of that. His character is written as a soldier from with PTSD who's served in Afghanistan, and he comes off very cold and conflicted. And I guess what they were trying to show with that character is how that kind of experience impacts on everything that you do in life. And I felt he was fine with it. It was more kind of what the storyline choices that they made that pissed me off really with The Bodyguard. And it was also the fact that it just was so predictable in the end. Like it just became like, oh really? Like that's what you're gonna go with? Like every other fucking jingoistic fucking TV show and movie that wants to demonize a certain set of people and their culture and their religion. It just annoyed me. They had the opportunity to do something really different and go really left field with the story. I'm sorry, I'm trying not to give away too much detail to spoil it for people who haven't seen The Bodyguard, who do want to see it. But there's a certain point in the story where they have an opportunity to actually do something interesting, and they choose not to do that and go down the cliched route. And I think that's really what got to me even more so than the character. The character is difficult to empathize with. That's true, but yeah, it's probably more what they chose to do with the plot, really.
Okay. Well, you just shot all over my theory where Finn Jones was in Iron Fist, Richard, and he was also in Game of Thrones. Richard Madden was also in Game of Thrones. Could it be a Game of Thrones curse?
Yeah, Game of Thrones curse. Yeah, okay, I got you.
No, obviously not. So let's just fucking round it up then, yeah?
Well, you never know. I mean, we'll see what happens with Game of Thrones this season, isn't it? Because we've got Game of Thrones coming up in 2019, and I guess that transitions us nicely into some of the things we're looking forward to from 2019. Yeah. So again, I'm really going to keep this brief because we are running out of time here. So, but Game of Thrones is returning for its final season in 2019. That will be a highlight. No doubt. So, yep, we'll definitely be looking forward to that. For me, some of the things I'm looking forward to in 2019 that aren't Avengers Endgame, because obviously we're all looking forward to Avengers Endgame. That goes without saying. But for me, I guess the biggest things I'm looking forward to movies-wise is Captain Marvel. Can't wait to see that. Lion King, the live-action Lion King, I'm looking forward to. Godzilla, King of the Monsters. It Chapter 2, Spider-Man Far From Home, and I've got this one circled because I'm because I don't know how I feel about this franchise at the moment. But Star Wars Episode 9, of course, is rounding out this year. And yeah, as I said, I don't know how I feel about the franchise at the moment after Solo, but yeah, I guess it is something I'm going to end up going to see because I mean, who am I kidding? I'm going to go see it. So, yeah, it is what it is. But Rich, how about you for movies? Anything that kind of stands out that we haven't mentioned? I mean, there's a trailer that we saw today that might be high up on your list.
John Wick 3. That's it.
Yeah.
That's it. That's what like John. Fuck. Listen, John. Me and Jay, we watched it today at work. Listeners, you know already that me and Jason work together. I've recently got a promotion, and for the moment, I've actually been sitting next to Jason. I'm sure I know the hell out of him, but you know what? It's been since 16. He's used to it, so I don't give a damn. But the excitement when we both watched this trailer, yeah, it was peak. It was peak. Like, I haven't felt excited by a trailer like this maybe since Avengers Infinity War, but only the bit where the whole Avengers Infinity War trailer was good for me, but is when it's the Yibambe bit that's what gets me. Yibambe, yeah? And the Black Panther trailer was good as well. You know, when you start seeing different parts of Africa, but this film, I mean, this trailer, like the music, like the thing is, we know what we're getting with John Wick. and they just said, like, okay, listen, you know what you're getting. So, this is what you're gonna see. Boom, here you go. Is a continuation from part 2, and that's enough. Like, yeah, oh man, I'm super excited for this film. Like, ridiculously. I'm even contemplating. I'm at some point in the new year, which is what we're now ready. I'm contemplating moving into taking up a new martial arts style, and I'm contemplating doing a little bit of a Brazilian jiu-jitsu, just to say that I've done it. And John Wick, I have to admit, is easily one of the reasons why I would do that. So this would actually be the second time in my life that Keanu Reeves has been one of the influences for me to go and take up martial arts. The first time being when me and Jason and an old school friend of ours called David went to go see The Matrix. So yeah, for 2019, looking forward to movie. Looking forward to John Wick 3 Parabellum easily.
Yep. No doubt, man. No doubt. And no doubt you guys are excited about that as well. We would definitely be all over that movie when that comes out. We'll have a review up on the channel. I have no doubt we'll be chatting about it on social media as well. So make sure you're following us up on the socials as well to stay in tune with that. But yeah, man, I mean, 2019, there's so much good stuff to look forward to. Let us know what you're looking forward to as well, because I mean, we definitely want to hear from you listeners. So, give us your input and let us know about the things that you're excited for 2019. Now, speaking of our listeners, we love to get our listeners involved with the show, as you know, for those of you who've listened to us before. So we had a question that we put out to everybody. The question was pretty simple. It was, what have been your favorite sort of movie, TV, and gaming highlights or moments from 2018? And we got a few interesting responses as well, which is cool. So I'll just share some of these with you now. So on Twitter, as Richard mentioned his podcast earlier, Jeff from the Kung Fu Driving podcast said that his favorite movie of the year was Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, because it was just such a revelation. But he also said that it was a close fight between that and a movie that I'm surprised he didn't mention, Rich, The Night Comes for Us. Which is a phenomenal movie.
No, but there was a movie on Netflix, and I only chose 2 movies and then 2 TV shows. That's the only reason I didn't mention that.
Yeah. But yeah.
You.
Don't be mad at Jeff just because he got in there before you.
Watch your back, Jeff.
His favorite TV show of the year was Haunting of Hill House, which I haven't even seen yet, which is why I never mentioned it. People have been going on and on and on about the Haunting of Hill House, and I need to watch it. So yeah, that's definitely another thing that's going to get added to the list. But yeah, thanks for that, Jeff. So appreciate that. His podcast is called the Kung Fu Driving Podcast, so make sure you go and check that out. We also heard from our boys from #Blackout Podcast as well, Jared and Jay. A big shout out to them. Jay said that his favorite movie moment was was all the fight scenes in The Night Come for Us. So many broken bones, so much blood, so much unexpected joy to my heart, says Jay. And then Jared says, Tuffy for me, obviously loved Wakanda Forever and the amazing new Into the Spider-Verse movie. But one of my favorite moments comes from in Rockstar Games Red Dead Redemption 2 when you can kill the Ku Klux Klan. There's 3 different instances of that, and I killed him 3 times. Yeah, I've heard about that in Red Dead Redemption 2, that you can apparently hunt down the clan and kill them. Which must be satisfying as hell. So yeah, I feel you on that one, Jared. I feel you. Thank you also to Verbal Diorama. She said that this is tough. Infinity War gave me all the feels, and Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse was an unexpected joy. But my favorite moment was seeing Captain Marvel's symbol on Fury's pager. Although we knew that she's coming to save humanity, and as a woman, seeing that will be awesome. Which, yep, I agree with that. We're looking forward to Captain Marvel as well here. So yeah, that's all good. And Josiah from Twitter said, seeing Infinity War opening night with a packed theater, which I think is what I did as well, actually, when Infinity War came out. Yeah, it was a pretty packed theater, and yeah, that was an amazing experience as well. And lastly, J30 Productions on Instagram said Spider-Man's PS4 release. Has been playing the game from release day till now and is not tired of it yet. So yeah, we didn't even mention that really, Spider-Man on PS4, but yeah, that was a big thing that came out this. So much happened this year, bro. Like, there's too much. You need to slow down. There's too much. We're getting old. We can't cope with all of this, man. So yeah, that was it. Thank you very much, listeners, for getting involved with that. And as I said, if you'd like to get involved in our questions of the week, then make sure you're following us on social media. That will be when you'll get to find out what the question of the week is and how you can get involved. Now we are gonna have to wrap this one up, I think, because we've been going for quite a while. Before we go, though, I'd like to say a big thank you once again to everybody who listened to us in 2018, and please keep riding with us in 2019. We now have, along with this podcast, we have the Bebop Rewatch. For those of you who don't know what that is me and Rich sitting down, usually with a guest or sometimes with a guest, and examining each episode of the seminal anime series Cowboy Bebop. That's going to be even more relevant, and you're going to hear a lot more about that name Cowboy Bebop in 2019, because Netflix is throwing their weight behind a live action TV show version of that anime series, and we're super excited for it. So if you want to swat up on your Cowboy Bebop knowledge, make sure you check out the Bebop Rewatch podcast with me and Rich. We usually record it on a Sunday night, and it's usually out on a Monday, and we'll be beginning again this Sunday. So yeah, make sure you check that out. We'll also be doing a new podcast where we'll be talking about some movies that we love from, our formative years and our childhood that are perhaps a little bit underappreciated and don't get talked about so much anymore. The first movie we'll be looking at is Long Kiss Goodnight. I'm not sure when we're going to get down to recording that, to be honest with you. But again, if you want to know when we'll be doing that, make sure you follow us on social media and you'll find out exactly how. Now we're going to get ready to say goodbye. But before we go as well, make sure that you stick around at the end of the podcast, because we actually have a very special segment that we're introducing, which is from a friend of ours, Marquita, aka Yellow Rage Attacks. She was a guest on our show this year, and she was a fantastic guest. And she's very graciously agreed to do an anime spot for us once a month. What you're about to hear will be the first of her anime spots, and it will be her thoughts on the best animes of the year of 2018 and all of the animes that she thinks you should be checking out in 2019. If you're an anime fan, that is a must listen, so make sure you stay tuned for that. But Rich, it's time for us to go, man. So Rich, say good night.
Good night.
And it's a good night from me. And here is Marquita, and we'll see you next week. Peace.
My top picks for 2018 are Cells at Work, which is a think how my body works Japanese style. The main character is a red blood cell number 1803, and she has a poor sense of direction. Because of this, she's always ending up getting lost trying to deliver her packages, so her oxygen, her CO2 and her food, and ends up in crazy situations along the way. Following this line, it introduces us to different cells within the body, because she's always getting into trouble. Each episode has its own isolated issue with great descriptions of which each cell does that the red blood cell encounters. She's always being saved by a neutrophil, which is the most common type of white blood cell, and he has taken a shine basic to her simple ways. It's definitely worth a watch, and from what I can tell, it is accurate from a biology point of view, so very interesting probably be quite useful for, kids as well. Another favourite of mine was Megalobox, created as part of a 50th anniversary for the manga Ashita no Joe. We follow an underground nameless fighter who participates in fixed matches. So megalobox is a style of boxing where the fighters use a mechanized boxing rig attached to their arms to inflict even more damage on their opponents. Him and his friend / coach get into a spot of trouble with the local loan shark and have to take their fights to into a megalobox tournament in order to win back some money that will cover the coach's debts. He takes on the name of Joe and fights his way to the top of the competition. It started airing on Toonami as part of the English run as of beginning of December. My next favourite was Dokaichi. I'm harassed by the sexiest man of the year. This one is strange because it's a yaoi style anime. For those who don't know, yaoi basically means guy on guy relationships. It follows Takato Saijo as he loses the most desirable man of the year award to Junta Azumaya after a 5-year streak of always winning it. The anime is really well animated, very vibrant colours. The characters get themselves into hilarious situations. You follow basically the sort of love story of Takato and Junta. And it also gives like a brief insight onto how they view the Japanese view relationships with regards to models and actors, what they are or aren't allowed to do. It wasn't an anime. It's not an anime I would typically go for, but ever so often, you got to step outside your regular genres. My next favourite was Rascal Does Not Dream of Bunny Girl Senpai. We follow the main character, Sakuta, his love and social life through a series of incidents stemming from puberty syndrome. It's a high school story. Well, it's a high school based storyline, and he basically falls in love with this girl who's in the year above him called Mai after he's out in the library and he sees her walking around the library in a bunny outfit, which is where we get the name from. It's a really sweet love story. The main character is, not wishy-washy. It's not really there, even though there are a lot of female characters in it, it's not a harem style anime. And everyone has their sort of place in his life, from his friends, even to, the development of his relationship with his sister and his parents. It's really well written and well put together. Another favourite, which I completely took me by surprise, was Happy Sugar Life. The opening episode is the main character standing on top of a burning roof holding the hand of a small child. Like, if that's not going to get your interest, then, just turn it off straight away. But we then jump back in time, and the main character is a pink-haired psycho. Her name's Sato. She's a young girl who knows nothing about love and basically just continuously hooks up with guys every couple of days to fill the void that she has inside of her. And eventually she comes into contact with this little girl called Shio, who has this very strange ability to make everyone who lays eyes on her sort of fall in love with her. Not in a weird, well, it's a bit weird and creepy, but not in a sexual kind of way, but just this really kind of like they want to fawn all over her and they must have her close, and it sends them a bit psychotic. The anime's very grisly. It's going to tug at your heartstrings. There's so many things going on here. Murder, blackmail, bullying, parental abuse, perverted teachers, kidnapping, even rape is sort of alluded to as it goes along. But it's so worth it. From what I've researching around the anime, I've heard the manga is way more intense and also explains bits of that they may not have animated, which would help you understand the story better. And I've started reading it, and it seems that is the case. Another one that was really good, which is now available on Netflix, Baki. And it's basically a martial arts program. It's a sport anime. Bunch of martial arts experts who are on death row break out of their prisons across the globe for a chance to find defeat at the hands of Baki. All of them have this thing about they want to be, taken down in a way or in a manner that suits whatever their ethos is, their fighting ethos is. It's great, you know, very muscular men. The anime style is very swollen. Everybody just looks jacked, like they're on steroids. Lots of blood, lots of gore. The storyline only really makes sense because it's an anime. If it was like a film, it would never actually make sense. So it's just one of those things that, you know, that anime is like, it can only be done in an anime. Could not be done on anything else. That's dubbed on Netflix, came out in December. It's also available, I guess, all those anime are going to be available everywhere across all the usual typical websites, so Crunchyroll included. Some of them are on Funimation as well. There are a few anime that have dropped like their third seasons. Free, Dive to the Future, following the main character Haru on his adventures at university now, doing competitive swimming. I found this anime really engrossing for some reason. It is a fan service anime and is aimed at girls. So if you are not into watching semi-naked guys running around and doing the whole bromance thing really close in each other's face, then it's probably not for you. But even though I'm not really a sports anime fan, for some reason, it really pulled me into it. And the animation of it is beautiful, especially when they're in the water and they're swimming. It's so great. I would watch it just for that. Like, the animation is fantastic. This will be their third season that came out for that. Overlord 3, third season again. Just continuing off our main character, Ainz Al Ghul, inside of the game that he's been stuck inside of as he tries to find his friends. You know, the guy's not wimpy, you know. He's not afraid to make the hard decisions. He will kill you if he doesn't like you, and for that alone I think it's great, because there's a lot of the time you find these main characters are just wishy-washy and they shouldn't really be a main character. So if you haven't watched the first 2 seasons of that, definitely watch that one. The typical ones, Fairy Tail is back. I'm binging that at the moment. This is going to be its final season, so any Fairy Tail fans, you know, make sure you're in there watching. My Hero Academia again came with a great season, and the next season is looking to be fantastic again. Can't remember off the top of my head when that comes out, but definitely watching that. There's not that many episodes on My Hero Academia, so if you've heard about it but you haven't been able to watch it, definitely pick it up. You should be able to watch through it relatively quickly, a couple of days, just kill it. It's also dubbed, so if you're allowed to watch it at have your watch things at work while you do your work, watch it there as well. It's great. And that's it.
Thanks for listening to us. If you're down with Wulong Talks, show some love by following us on Twitter, Facebook and Instagram at Wulong Talks. You can also find us online at www.wulongtalks.com or drop us an email at wulongtalkspodcast@gmail.com. We can also be found as part of the Britpod Scene Collective, and we're also officially E14 endorsed. Search for those hashtags to enjoy more content from us and from other great British podcasters.